Right, I think it's actually going now. I'm having a bit of problem with the camera this afternoon. So, without further ado, let's get on and see what I'm doing. What I'm doing this afternoon is I'm trying to rescue a watercolour which I wasn't happy with. It was on the back of the piece of paper and it hasn't taken the paint particularly well. My flicking out's turned into black lines instead of white lines. I quite like the colouring of it, but I'm just not over happy with it. So what I've done is I've covered the whole thing with a coat of PVA glue, and you can see where it's pulled off in some places and put stripes in others. What I'm going to do is try to rescue it with some acrylics, and the acrylics I'm using are SAA ones. They are, I think they're very, very good indeed, in my opinion. I haven't got very many of them because I don't like to commit to, I don't like buying in sets, and I don't like to commit to a whole range of stuff until I'm sure of it. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some more of these. So what I've got is, I've got white, titanium white, I've got lemon yellow, I've got a colour there that they call light mustard, white, lemon yellow, they call that light mustard. And to all intents and purposes it's cadmium yellow without any cadmium in, from what I can make out. It works the same as cadmium yellow. This one is yellow ochre, raw sienna and burnt umber. That's my usual earths and yellows palettes. Here we've got ultramarine blue. We've got a colour they call deep sea blue, which again is very much the same as cobalt blue, but doesn't have any cobalt in it. There is SAA red, which again I've bought instead of cadmium red. It doesn't have any cadmium in, and this I think is a wonderful colour. They call it Bordeaux, and it's like alizarin crimson on steroids with attitude. You need the tiniest amount of that stuff and it explodes everywhere. It's wonderful stuff. But the reason I've got these is not because I'm against using heavy metals in paint. It's purely and simply because with them all being professional quality paints, real cadmium and real cobalt are expensive. So until I knew what I wanted, or I've got a Christmas or birthday coming up, I will make do with the cheaper versions. But they are very, very good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into this, leave the design exactly where it is. I'll probably put something in that corner, or maybe carry that along just to give something down there. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, just try to rescue it, as it were. So, here we go. My setup is quite simple. Well, you won't be able to see it, but I've got my double water pot there, stack of brushes over here, my knacky little brush cleaner, which is a bathroom sponge in a takeaway cart, and I keep that moist and you can clean your brushes on that. And that's about all I've got. I can't remember what paper it is, but it's the wrong side of it anyway. So there we go. Now I shall use some ultramarine and some white. The way it mixes, it's lovely stuff. I think I'll put some quite bluey blue in the sky. Covers beautifully, this stuff. What What I'm using as a palette, by the way, is a cheap chopping board. It's cost about £1. You can scrape it off, but either that or you can throw it away. If you use the same colours in the same places, it doesn't really make much odds whether you clean your palette or not. Although I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that in public. I'm using this very thinly to start with, almost like watercolour, and I should build up some texture later on. But I want to keep this yellowy glow in the centre of it. A touch of yellow ochre and white, lots of white because it's very, very strong. And here we go. See, it's almost exactly the same colour as it was before. Mainly because I used SAA watercolours on the original, so it's quite easy to mix the same colours because they transfer right the way through. I suppose this, although it was a watercolour, since I've covered it in PVA, it's actually become an acrylic already. So, touch of the burnt umber into there, and you'll get a nice cloudy browny colour, grey colour. Put some clouds in on that side. This is just pure white I'm playing around with over here. I get some frothy bits of cloud into it, but because the blue is still slightly tacky, it's pulling up and making cloudy sort of colours in it. You have to be fairly quick with acrylics, especially up here in what I laughingly call my studio. It's because it's everything's in artificial light, so it's very warm in here with all the lights on and everything else going. So when I'm doing acrylics and watercolour, they dry very quickly indeed. But there we go, we're getting somewhere with the sky, fluffy, summery sort of sky. More white, some more of the cloudy colour. Put that in there. Now I'm just going to show you, I'll probably have to paint it out, but that's the colour I'm using for the cloud, very peely valley. Now I'm just going to put the tiniest touch of Bordeaux in it, and look at that. It really is a powerful colour, that. Alizarin is strong, but this knocks alizarin into a cocked hat. Put some of the burnt umber in it, it'll kill that fire. And now put some more blue in, and I should end up with approaching rain. There we go. pointing it out towards the bottom so the trees will stand out. Got to have counter change, light against dark, dark against light, and more blue. And see how strong it still is, and that is only just that tiny, well, you saw how little I put in. Bit of the cobalty colour going in as well. I want to have lovely weather on that side and approaching rain coming in on this side. It doesn't matter. The place I'm painting doesn't exist, so therefore its weather systems don't exist, so I can do anything I want. It's lovely being a painter. You create your own little universe and there's nobody there to tell you it's right or wrong or whatever. Except people look at your picture and they say, that's a load of old rubbish. Sorry, I waffle when I'm painting, it's because I'm happy. Yeah, sort of cloudiness. And down here I'm going to put some more of this goldy colour. Lots of white because it's near the horizon, but I'll put that so the trees will stand out. I'll drag it behind the trees so that we'll get that goldy colour showing through. It's a bit heavy, that. No, I won't sing. It won't cost me any subscribers I might get if I sing. Some people ask me occasionally what I paint on with acrylics, and the answer is more or less anything you feel like. Once, if you give paper, anything, a coat of PVA, or if you want to be posh, an acrylic medium, which is posh PVA more than anything else, then as long as it's not absorbent, you can paint on it with acrylics. Anything from a wok to a fine linen canvas will do. Oh, that's not bad. Quite like that. Quite pretty. Now, using one of my posher brushes. That's a Pro Art. Again, it's made for acrylics. It's hard wearing. I've had that 4 or 5 years and it still springs about. What I'm going to do with a thinner brush is I'm going to start putting some of these tree bits in. Now I want it, I think I might do it late autumn. I was going to do it winter, but I shall use wintry sort of trees with bits of autumny foliage on. Again, I'm doing it very, very thin underneath. Burnt umber, touch of raw sienna, just a tad of the ultramarine to grey it up a bit. I'm just scribbling on. No detail, These trees are quite a long way away and you won't see any detail. Doop de doop 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 doop. Bit more grey colour. One's further away. Mix the grey colour and the brownie colour, and oddly enough you get a grey brownie colour. Technical terms, don't let me baffle you with science. I must admit, I don't like adding mystique to painting. Painting is fun. It's not anything else. It's fun. I mean, okay, lots of people, not enough of us, but quite a few people can make money out of it. For some people, it's a full-time job, and they are so damned lucky. Because it's fun. Fancy having your job being fun. I worked for 50 years. And I count the days I had fun on one hand. Now that's not true. I used to have a lot of fun when I was teaching. Don't know if the kids had as much fun, but I did. Right, what I'm going to get out now, if I can find it. Nope, I put it somewhere else in the wrong place. Oh, I'll use a different brush. I was going to get... No, I can see it from where I am. Excuse my head if you see it. There we go. What I'm going to use now is a brand new SAA No. 4 rigger made out of pretend sable. I was very wary about using a brush like this with acrylics until I did it. It really is, it's good. It works like sable and cleans up beautifully. Abuse it left, right and centre, and it bounces back so far. Brilliant brush. Right, there we go. Darky colours. Ultramarine and burnt umber. You can get almost black with mixing those together. A personal preference of mine is I don't very often use made blacks. I tend to make very dark darks myself. Mainly because I find it difficult to control. A lot of people, a friend of mine online, Dave Usher, makes wonderful videos and he uses black with his acrylics all the time and they come out wonderfully. I use black, it dies, everything just goes blank. So here we go, put some trees growing up through there. Some branches coming off. These won't stay as they are, there's going to be other stuff going on top of them. I just want to get some structure to where the trees are, ideas where the light's going to come through them and things like that. Put some light into that. Trees that are further away. There we go. And on the other side I'll do some the same. It's not careful drawing. I'm not going to try and draw every leaf and twig. If I'm anything as an ism, I'm an impressionist. I like to give an impression of what I'm doing rather than paint completely accurate portrait things. not portraits of people, I mean portraits of places. I've got lots of cameras. I use cameras to do perfectly recorded places and then mess about with them afterwards on with paint and canvas. Right, okay, now we use a little brush. That's ooh, it's broked, never mind. Stick some PVA in it, it'll be fine. It's a nice little brush that I use it a lot, which is why it does that. It's cheap. It's some form of nylon brush. I don't know where I got it. I think I bought it at a car boot sale or something. But again, takes an awful lot of hammer. Bash it about, do all sorts of things with it. And it keeps coming back for more. So, here we go. Browns and greys. Little bits of yellow. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. Not much, but a little bit. Where it's going against, across, yeah, behind, where it's going in front of the light stuff. It's in silhouette. And when it's going across itself, I'll put some more lighter colours across there, so as you get the contrast. Counter chains, light against dark, dark against light. If you remember that, you won't go far wrong. Dark. A bit darker at the bottom where you've got more layers of stuff. Bushes, long grass, stuff like that. Whereas up here, there's only tree branches, so you get more light coming through it. Back to the burnt sienna. Burnt sienna, burnt umber. Welly some of that in there. Welly something in, that's another technical term I use a lot. I like technical terms. Welly it in, slap it on. But the closest I come to real technical terms is dropping it in. So there, we've got the dark at the bottom, we've got it going up to lighter coloured trees. Clean it, my brush a little bit. Bit of the yellow ochre. Bit thicker. And the raw sienna to darken it down a bit. And I'll just and some autumny sort of things there. Yeah, that's that lot more or less done. Let's do the other side. Now the other side, I've got more light coming into them. So I'm going to do a bit more heaviness on them, on this side especially. See, the paint's much thicker here. I want it to be thicker because I want to have more texture. Put a few bits on that side. See how that now looks if it's catching a ray of sunshine, and I'll take it darker as I go over here. A few bits of that on the edges. Now you can see I'm not painting in leaves or anything like that, I'm just putting in blobs. Blobs, that's another technical term. For the darks, I'm mixing back into this burnt umber and ultramarine stuff there. I'm mixing it into darky colours, and I'm keeping it on that side and lower down so that we've got some real darks coming in on there. The beauty of working in acrylics is if you make a mistake, technical term for that's a cock-up. If you do a cock-up, you just go over the top again. It takes 5 minutes to dry, and then you go over the top in whatever colour you should have put there in the first place. People talk to you about painting as if it's some wonderful fine art. Well, it is a fine art when you do it properly, but one of the things that I go bonkers about, I tend to rant about fine arts and what they've become these days, but it's not like, what am I trying to say, it's not like bricklaying or a real craft, stone dressing or something like that, where you have to do it exactly right or it doesn't look right or it doesn't work or the wall falls down. When it comes to painting, there are as many different ways of painting as there are painters. Whichever way works for you is the right way. Might not be the way that works for me. So don't follow exactly what I do. Whatever you do, you'll just, not everybody, but some of you will say, oh God, I can't do that. And once some people say, oh, I can't do that, that's the beginning of the end. You give up, you get disillusioned. Watch. The wonderful thing about YouTube is there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of how-to videos. Now, the downside of that is you might get confused. People who are starting out watch all these people saying, this is how you do it. And if you look at all of them, look at what they do, and if that's what you want to do, then fair enough. But there's some people who just do the same picture over and over again. Different subjects, but the same picture. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a better idea to do lots of different pictures in lots of different ways, and eventually you will find a way that suits you, and you'll be able to make your own pictures your own way and actually think, I enjoyed that. And the other thing is, if you make a huge cock-up, A, nobody's going to know, and B, it's just a bit of paper and some mud. That's all you're getting worried about. I know some people say, oh, I've messed it up, I've messed it up. So what? I've messed up more pieces of paper than I've had hot dinners. And Doesn't matter. I've never done a painting that I haven't learned from. And I've been painting for 50 years and more. I'm 70 this year and I started painting when I was about 6. Now I know I haven't come very far, have I? I was probably better when I was 6 than I am now. But you know, what have you got to lose? Give it a go, try it. One thing I do suggest, I tend to, when I'm demonstrating, if I make a mess, I will do the big gesture and tear the paper up. But I wouldn't advise you to do that. If you think you've made a mess of something, put it in a drawer, put it to one side, turn it upside down, and then go back and look at it in a few weeks' time or a few days' time. And you will see that it's nowhere near as bad as you thought it was. And I guarantee that when Leonardo painted the Mona Lisa, he looked at it and thought, oh, don't like that smile, it looks nothing like her. I wouldn't say, honestly, I'm not joking. I don't think any artist has ever painted exactly what they thought they were going to paint when they picked up their brush that day. Because it's an organic thing. Right, okay, there's your trees and your sky. Now, I'm putting all the brushes in there. No, I won't, I'll use one of these. I've got a Master Touch Reflex, which again I've had for years. Can you see it? Yep, there you go. It's a pretend bristly sort of brush. And I'm going to use it to block in the reflections. Now, first things first, I'm going to put a little dark line along the bank there, just to show there's a gap. Then I'm using pure colour. That is burnt umber on its own. I'm putting it across. Water's flat, so I put it across, flat, and then I'm going to pull the reflections down out of it. Now, because we've got all these light colours, I'll push them in that way as well. I'm going to have to redo this because I don't think that they would reflect that far. But a bit of ultramarine in there to darken it up. And there, we've got some reflection-y things. Do the same on the other side, not quite so dark. Where the texture's coming from is I put the PVA on quite thickly, so there's actually brush marks in the PVA. Now see where it's coming out, it almost looks as if there's tree trunks. Now that's a complete accident. It's not me being incredibly skillful or anything like that, it's just an accident. But it works, so what the hell, keep it there. Now, in a reflection, the lights, pretty much as a rule, the lights are not quite as light and the darks are not quite as dark as what's being reflected. Might not be a fact in physics, but it's a good rule of thumb for painting, kidology. Right, now that looks a bit wet. In this bit in the middle, I'm not sure, to me it's starting to look a bit like a river that widens out here. And right in the middle there, I'm going to get a very small brush, a small bristle brush. This is very expensive bristle brush made in China, probably cost £1 for a set of 10. But it works. I'm not a snob when it comes to brushes for acrylics. They get hammered. And actually most bristle brushes work for ages. I still have, some of you have seen earlier videos of mine may have noticed it, I still have the very first brush I ever bought when I was 13 years old. I call it Bertie the brush, and it lives over there with all my brushes. And I still use him. He still works. He's getting a bit tatty around the edges, and his shaft's broken at the end at some point. Probably got shot in a drawer in a temper. And the ferrules held on by gaffer tape, which a lot of my ferrules are held on by. I'm chunnering while I'm mixing, by the way, and getting a very light bluey grey. And yeah, dear old Bertie's still going strong, and I'm 70. Old, he's very, very old. Got a bit more white in that. That light there has gone a little bit on the brown side, but hey, it's acrylics. Off you go. And the grey has gone in the wrong place. There you go, put him back. Now, some darky colours for here. too light. Notice now I'm getting nearer to the end, I'm putting in thicker strokes of paint. A bit thin in the background. As it comes closer, you get more paint into the mix. Now, I'll leave the bit in the middle because a lot of that's just going to be wet. What am I going to do with this front? I'm not mad keen on the rocks, but I shall go in and do some more rocky things. No, that's the wrong brush. The square one. I think what I'll do, I'll bring that more across. A little bit of something there. I was going to put a tree going up, but I like those as they are. Think. I'll put the rocks in first, see what happens. So I need some rocky colours. Start off with a dark, a burnt umber, some of that, touch of the burgundy. Oh, rich purple. I'm doing the black, the dark, fairly thin. Spread it about all over the place. We've got a barrier. By the time I've roughed that up a bit, it should be alright. I don't mean have a fight with it, I mean make it a bit rougher, put some more texture into it, some more colours. These great big enormous rocks. Maybe a ruin, I don't know. Right, I've got lots of darks now. I'm going in with some light colours. Now the sun's coming that way, as you can tell from over there, so we'll echo it. I'm not drawing these in with any detail, I'm just putting some angular lights and darks to give some idea of it being broken, rocky and stony. Now, everyone can see that those bits are in light. Now, What I want now is some mid-tones to separate the light from the dark. I'm using a soft round number 8ish round nylon brush, pretend colour brush. Now I want to warm them up a bit, so I'm going to actually use some of this red, some white, and that, a little bit of blue, till I get a sort of pinky grey colour. Let's see what that looks like. Right, now we've got some idea of where the darks are, some idea of where the lights are, and lots of mid-tones. So I'm going to get another slightly smaller round brush, and I'm going to mix up the dark colour again. The reason I'm mixing it up again is because I put all sorts of other colours in with the wash, but it was quite simple. It was the burnt umber and the ultramarine with a tiny touch of the crimsony colour. There we go, that's fairly dark. Now this I want to be thinned out. I'm only using water to thin, by the way. I'm not using anything else. Now what I'm doing now is drawing shapes. I do it while it's still wet. I'm picking up the other colours with it. Just putting some shapes into this. It could even be an old dry stone wall that's fallen over. Doesn't really matter. Whoever. So you didn't get to see the end of it, but where I was when we finished was I was just putting in these rocks, which I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see them now that they're done and the camera's in a different place, but I was just in the middle of putting in mid-tones and no, it's not working. Yes, that's better. I was just putting in mid-tones and then I took a rigger afterwards and drew in some finer lines. I went back to the middle and brought in the white I'm not sure if I'd put those trees in before at the background there, but I brought in white right across the middle and swept it across either side to give a sort of spread of light right the way across. Then using the rigger again, I drew that little tree and I put all this foreground stuff in, bits of tatty grass and stuff growing up through the ruined wall or whatever it is, and that was the end of it. And then I made some merry quip about glad you were watching and things like that, and realised that the camera hadn't worked. So there we go, that's the end of that, and there is my picture for today. Don't know what I'll call it, but I'll think of a title before I put it up online. So I'm sorry about the end of that, but you missed the last 10 minutes or so, and I've just recapped what I've done. Okay, so thanks for watching, and sorry I cocked it up for you. Okay, bye.